Scroll through social media, and you will almost certainly encounter the Samoyed. Online, they're celebrated as the ultimate living cloud, a pristine, fluffy companion. Look at this picture. Notice the stark white coat on a 20 to 30 kilogram frame. But specifically, look at the famous Sammy's smile. That distinct, happy expression, combined with a naturally friendly demeanor, makes them incredibly appealing. Casual owners see a sweet, easygoing animal that looks like a plush toy brought to life, which drives a massive demand for the breed. But this diagram shows how canine experts actually rate owning one of these dogs. Despite their angelic appearance, the Samoyed is classified as a highly demanding 4 out of 5 on the ownership difficulty scale. Bringing one home based purely on its aesthetic is a common and serious mistake. To understand what this animal actually requires, we have to look past the fluffy exterior and examine what the breed was biologically engineered to do. This is the freezing, desolate landscape of Siberia. Winter temperatures here routinely drop to extremes that make outdoor survival nearly impossible for most mammals. In this photograph, we see the traditional context of their origin. The breed was developed entirely by the Samoyed people, nomadic reindeer herders who lived and worked directly in these severe environmental conditions. This historical image shows how they were utilized. These dogs with a primary transport mechanism, bred to pull heavy sleds across ice for hours. Century after century of hauling heavy loads hardwired an incredible physical endurance into the modern Samoyed. Because of that specific working history, today's breed requires a bare minimum of 1 to 2 hours of intense, focused physical exercise every single day to remain healthy. If that hyperactive engine is left idling in a modern living room without a proper outlet, the dog's pent-up energy will inevitably turn into highly destructive chewing and relentless barking. Look at the physical closeness in this archival photo. In the brutal Siberian nights, the Samoyed people brought their dogs directly into their shelters to serve as living heaters for the entire family, breeding them for deep, close companionship. That deep historical intimacy produced a modern dog that is exceptionally social and affectionate, and widely recognized as excellent with young children. However, the intelligence required to navigate ice and herd reindeer means they are highly independent thinkers. They analyze situations rather than blindly following commands, which often translates to extreme stubbornness. Training them requires a very specific strategy. Owners must rely on strict consistency and positive reinforcement. Expecting immediate obedience from a Samoyed will lead to frustration on both ends of the leash. They are also an incredibly vocal breed. Rather than barking only at perceived threats, they use frequent, loud vocalizations to communicate their mood, demand attention, or express boredom. Ultimately, a Samoyed requires as much active mental engagement as physical exertion. They make joyful, interactive family members, but they absolutely refuse to be left alone or ignored in the backyard. We also have to address the physical consequence of their Siberian heritage, their incredibly dense double coat. In the Arctic, that fur acted as essential biological armor against the freeze. When you take that biological insulation and place it inside a climate-controlled modern home, the result is extreme, relentless shutting. This visual illustrates a biological event known as a seasonal blowout. Once or twice a year, the dog sheds its entire dense undercoat in massive, concentrated volumes, completely blanketing furniture, floors, and clothing in white hair. Look closely at the groomer working through the coat here. To prevent the fur from forming painful mats against the skin, which can cause severe infections, the owner must perform frequent, deep brushing down to the root. This grueling manual labor is officially categorized by experts as a very high maintenance requirement, and it serves as the single biggest factor pushing their ownership difficulty rating to a 4 out of 5. The pristine, snow-white aesthetic you see going viral is never their natural state in a domestic home. That look is entirely the result of hours of tedious, mandatory physical labor by a committed owner. The central paradox of the breed is clear. The Samoyed is a rugged, high-performance cold-weather athlete trapped inside the body of a luxury show dog. When new owners fail with this breed, it usually traces back to 3 specific mistakes: severely underestimating the volume of shedding, failing to maintain the deep grooming, and skimping on intense daily exercise. Placing them in hot climates, restricting them to small apartments, or expecting them to thrive in a low-maintenance, hands-off household will absolutely guarantee behavioral and physical problems. The ideal owner profile is highly specific. They require active families with spacious living environments, ideally in cooler climates, who are fully willing to commit to intense daily grooming and consistent training. If an owner actually understands the history and is fully prepared to handle the heavy physical and maintenance demands, the Samoyed transcends its internet beauty. You get an incredibly engaging, deeply loyal, and deeply affectionate companion.